Hi everybody, it's Susan from Sunrise Quilt Studio, and today I have another vintage quilt block for you. This one is called Dakota Gold, and here is my sample block. I did it all in yellows with a low volume background. The block I'm going to show you in the demo is going to be pink and a yellow and pink print, so it's going to be different than this one. This block goes together pretty easily. It uses half square triangles, squares, and rectangles, and there are not a lot of pieces in there, so it goes pretty quickly. So I hope you'll stay with me, and I'll show you how to put this block together. Okay, here I have all the fabrics that you're going to need to make the Dakota Gold block. For A, you need 2 rectangles that are 2.5 by 4.5. You need 4 3-inch squares for B. For C, you need 2 2.5 by 4.5 inch rectangles. For D, you need 4 3-inch squares. For E, you need 4 3-inch squares. And for F, you need 5 2.5 inch squares. And you're going to want to draw a diagonal line on the wrong side of your B squares and your E squares. So we're going to make half square triangles with all of these pieces, B, D, and E. And then we'll be able to assemble the block. So I'll adjust the camera and we'll get started. Okay, we're going to make 3 different sets of half square triangles using the B, D, and the E squares. And these are going to be a little bit oversized, so we need to trim them down to 2.5 inches after we get them all sewn together. But I'm going to start with the B and the E squares, and I need to make 4 of these, so I'm going to take 2 of the B squares and 2 of the E squares and set the others aside, and we'll use those in a different combination. So I have a diagonal line drawn on the wrong side of actually both of these, but I only need to look at one. So I'm going to put the background on the top and put them right sides together, and then sew 1/4 inch away from both sides of that diagonal line. So I'm just going to line these up, and I've got a 50 weight thread in my needle and my bobbin, and I'm at 2.0 on my stitch length. And you can chain piece these together if you want, or just do them individually. I'm going to turn my machine speed down a little bit. I've got it up as high as it'll go. That was for a different project. Okay, and now I'm going to do the second one. If I run the machine too fast, it vibrates the table. And that beeping noise is my iron. Okay, so I'm going to cut these in half along the drawn line. And now I have 4 2.5 inch squares, half square triangles like this. So I'm going to set these aside. I'm going to press everything all at the same time. Now my second set is with the D and the E squares. So I need 2 D squares and the other 2 E squares. And we're going to put those right sides together and do the same thing. Now if you want to use triangle paper or some kind of foundation paper, you can do that, or any method that you like to make half square triangles. Will work fine. You just need to have them finish out at 2.5 inches. So they will fit into the block pattern.
Okay, I'll cut those apart in a minute. I'm going to do the last set, and that is the D and the B squares, the other two B squares. So we're going to put those two together and make 4 half square triangles. Okay, now I'm going to cut everything apart and then press and trim down to 2.5 inches. Okay, so now I have everything pressed, and now I need to trim them down. So I've got my 3 stacks here, and I'm going to line up my ruler with the seam line there and trim it down at 2.5. So it won't be a whole lot that I'm trimming off, just a little bit, but that will change the accuracy. So just going to head and do that, and this I just need to trim off the dog ear, so that's ready to go. So I'm going to do that with all of the squares, and then we'll be ready to sew things into units, and then we'll sew the units into the block. Okay, I'm going to lay everything out into units here. We're going to make the corner units first, and then we'll put the rest of the block together. So we're going to take this unit, which is the B and the D square, and we're going to lay that out, and then here will go the B and the E square, and you put the B's together, so those 2 colors, and then this square here is going to be the D and the E squares. So we're making triangles with our colors, and then for this place here we're going to use the F squares. And we're going to use 4 of them. We'll have 1 left over that's going to go in the middle of the block. So this is the unit we're going to make. So we're going to make 4 of these. So I'm just going to stack all of the pieces on top of each other. And then I'm just going to sew them all at the same time. So I'll be sewing these pieces to these, and then those to those, and then I will sew them together in rows. So we'll do it just like we do sewing a block together. So I'm going to adjust the camera and start sewing these units together. Okay, so we're just going to sew right down the seam. There aren't any points to match right at this point, so this should go back pretty quickly. Okay, now I'm ready to sew the rows together, and I press the seams in opposite directions so that everything will nest. So
There we go. So those seams will nest together and make things easier for me. And I'm going to go ahead and pin, and I'm just going to pin them all together at the same time, and then I'll sew everything together at the same time. So kind of save me a little bit of time, so I don't have to stop between each piece. So let's sew these together, and then we can lay out the block and sew it together. Okay, now we need to lay the block out, and I have all of my pieces here, and what we're going to do is to lay out the corner units so that the background square goes towards the center. We need to use the A and the C rectangles, and it doesn't matter if you lay the C here or the A. That really isn't important. So we're going to have one row like that. I'm going to put the E square there in the center, or the F square, and do the A rectangle. The colors, you're going to mash them up across from each other here in the rectangle section. So this one will go here. And then we're going to do this and that. So there is the block all laid out. So I'm going to sew it together in rows and then sew the rows together. So I'm going to start by just laying the second piece in each row on top of the first piece. And you've got a point here you need to watch so that you don't blunt it off. And then when you sew the rows together, then you have points here, like here and here. So you need to watch those. But I'll adjust the camera and get started sewing. Okay, now I'm going to sew all the rows together, and I've pinned the two seams here, and I'm just going to sew down with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I'm going to press and we'll look at the block. Okay, here is the block, and I'm going to press the seam towards the center and on both seams, because that's the way it wants to go, and it's pushing the fabric away from the points, so those will show up better. And that's also the path of least resistance, because there aren't as many seams. There's only 2 seams in that section, as opposed to 1, 2, 3, 4 seams in here. So here we go. I think that turned out nice. So this is the Dakota Gold block. Okay, so that is it for the Dakota Gold block. Here is the
block I just finished, and I think that turned out pretty well. And then here is my sample block. This is the one with 2 shades of yellow. And you can see them side by side. Just a different look. So you can use whatever colors you want. You can use how many colors you want. I just used 2 different print fabrics plus the background. But you know, these cross pieces, these rectangles here, you know, you can make them a completely different color if you want. You could add a 3rd color and make them all the same, or you could use 2 different colors. You know, you can mix and match things however you want. And that centerpiece, you know, you can make that another print. So lots of different things you can do with this block. So I hope you'll give this one a try. Now the instructions for the block are in the description box below, and there's a link there that'll take you to my blog, and it'll take you to the page where these instructions are. So you can get those there. So if you like this video, please click that like button. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and click that notification bell so you'll be notified when the next video comes up. And in the meantime, I hope you're all staying safe and healthy, and I'll see you in the next video.
Thanks for watching. For more quilting ideas, click on the video links. And to keep up with my latest projects, click on the subscribe button. I hope to see you again soon.